Recovery Daily podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Abbasi. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and stroke survivor. And today I want to talk about from insanity to emotional sobriety and understanding the insanity of alcoholism, why we call it insanity, and the journey towards emotional sobriety. So I want to explore the extreme errors in judgment that come with alcoholism, that lack of mental peace, and the importance of emotional sobriety and ways to maintain it. I want to talk about how sobriety is not just not drinking. Very much a large part of sobriety is being emotionally sober. I came into the program of Alcoholics Anonymous to stop needing to drink, to be able to stop drinking. I had no idea what was in store for me. No idea. I honestly did not think that this level of living was possible. And I imagine that there are people listening who are not sober and feel like, sure, she must be strong, or, that I'm different in some way, that I'm able to maintain some sort of consistency in my life. But all I did was follow the program that is written out in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, and somehow it has worked for me. It is not, it's not easy, but it's simple. That's what we say a lot in the program. Um, so when I first started this sobriety, this journey towards sobriety, not exactly this sobriety that I'm in right now, but I had times that I put down the drink. And when I initially came into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and I saw the word insanity in the context of alcoholism, I thought, I am not insane. And I was completely offended. But I'm just struggling with drinking. I just need to stop drinking. But as I kept coming back, that's why they kept saying, keep coming back. And I didn't get that either. Why do they keep saying, keep coming back? Like, why do they feel like they need to say that? Well, because that is, when you walk in, it's like they hand you a key and help you put it in the door. But every time you come back to a meeting, the people in AA help you turn the key to open the door to willingness. And as I began to unravel these layers of addiction, by coming back to the meetings and just sitting and listening and crying every time I opened my mouth, I realized, I think after the fact, as I was able to start, I guess I got a clearer head, and I started to think back on some of the things that I did. Some of the And the best word I could describe it was insanity. That was the accurate word. It was insanity. It wasn't until I got into my right mind that I was able to look back and be like, I was effed in the head. If you don't mind me saying, like, I was just completely unable to think reasonably. I was living in an alternate universe. I was living in a place where I thought it was okay to prioritize drinking over everything. Um, I was living in a world where I thought it was okay to get off an airplane and go to the bar instead of meeting my brother outside of the airport who was picking me up. Extreme errors in judgment, reckless actions that were driven by emotions, sometimes driven by non-emotions, lack of emotion, the sheer chaos that I invited into my life. And in my world, that chaos was up in here. It was in my head. Um, I did not yet, really have a lot of chaos going on around me. I tended to stay at home a lot when I was drinking. I didn't really go out, but there were times that I did, and I'm going to share a couple of those times where it could have been much worse than it was. And these these times, and there's so many, I'm just going to share two, but there are so many that were clear signs of the insanity that came with my active alcoholism. Years and years of insanity. Um, I think back to things that I would say to people, say to loved ones, say to my boyfriend, who's now my husband, like, I can't believe he stayed with me. I really can't. I can't believe he stayed with me after that insanity. And today we're married. Um, if I didn't get sober, that wouldn't have happened. I wouldn't have everything that I have today if I wasn't sober. In my drinking days, I would often act out of emotions without rational thinking. I was unable to pause. I thought that that's the way it is to be a human being. You feel emotions and then you have reactions to emotions, whether it's anger, sadness, even joy, even positive reactions. They were extreme and they were unfiltered. I didn't have a pause. I didn't have um, okay, feel anger. You know what? Let's just take some time to calm down. That was that is not that is foreign to me. Or it was when I was drinking. Or sadness. I was sad all the time. I cried all the time. Um, I was on anxiety and depression medication, but it didn't work because I was drinking. And I heard that it wasn't working, but I felt a little different, but I didn't know I was capable of feeling the way that I do today. By taking the exact same medication and not drinking, I actually feel the way that that medication was meant to work. Um, so a couple insane reactions that I had where I was unable to take that pause. I was unable to do any of this stuff that I learned in my sobriety program. All the stuff that's in my toolbox today that allows me to manage my relationships and nurture my relationships. It allows me to not be so selfish. It allows me to not act out of anger. Um, so one evening, it was early evening, um, I got angry at my boyfriend. He's my husband now. but back then I have no idea what it was that he said or did. I have no idea. But I got angry with him. So when I would get angry, I would act out as if I was doing something to him, like, oh, I'll show him. Um, so I left. I'm sure I was already drinking because I was constantly drinking. I'm sure I was thinking, oh, I'll just leave and he'll worry where I went or something like that. So I left and I was in Charlestown. I left and I went to Glory Days, which is like a bar restaurant there in Charlestown. And so I went there. I think it was like 7 o'clock or something like that. So the dinner rush was kind of right in the swing of things. And so I went and sat at the bar and got a glass of wine and just got cozy. I ordered a salad. They have a great chef salad there. And I ordered a salad. I ate that and just started watching. I think it was a Sunday. I think there was football on, and I didn't know anybody there, but I finished my first glass of wine. I ordered a second glass of wine, and so on and so forth. I made some friends on the other side of the bar. I think we exchanged phone numbers. Um, Fast forward 6 hours later, I was sitting on the floor of a strip joint called the Golden Horseshoe, and it is a few miles from Glory Days on a back road. And I was waiting for a taxi. I do remember driving with the intention of driving home. And I thought, I'm going to drive these back roads so that I don't get caught drinking and driving. And I recognized how drunk I was. I recognized that I was, it was possible that I could kill myself or kill somebody else. That's the only time I've ever been that drunk driving where I was able to recognize that I was a danger. So that's why I pulled off over to this strip joint and I went in or knocked at the door or whatever. And I said, I asked them if I could call a taxi. So they let me come in and I don't know, somehow I was sitting on the floor there and I remember men coming up and talking to me while I was sitting on the floor, but I was too drunk to look up. So I don't know what they said. I remember things were spinning. I was nauseous. It was terrible. So the fact that 10 minutes earlier from that, I was in the car driving, you know, is just scary. These are moments of insanity. Um, the fact that all of that happened because I was reacting out of emotions and already had been drinking. I I'm fascinated by the fact that fast forward like I was not able to see at the time that I left and went to Glory Days and had that first glass of wine. I was not able to see into the future that I would end up on a strip joint floor waiting for a taxi, right? Because of course I can't see into the future. But today I use that memory as an image that allows me to fast forward. if I were to ever have the brilliant idea that I wanted to take a drink, that nobody's home, I'll go get a drink. Um, I'm able to now fast forward and say that one drink equals me sitting on the floor of a strip joint waiting for a taxi. That's what it is for me. Um, my second story is I was in Cleveland, Ohio, and I was on a business trip and I was staying in a hotel, and the hotel bar closed earlier than I expected. I think they closed at like 10 or something like that. Who closes at 10? Who closes a bar at 10? I expected them to be open until 2. And so I went outside. I was still smoking at the time. And I went outside of the hotel and I was like, where am I going to get alcohol? I can't stop drinking right now. Like, where am I going to go get alcohol? And I was thinking to myself, this isn't good. If I get more alcohol or if I go somewhere to get more alcohol, I'm going to stay up too late and I have a meeting in the morning. But the voice that wanted the alcohol was louder than the voice that was telling me it wasn't a good idea. So I was out there smoking a cigarette. Another woman came out smoking a cigarette. And I said, who closes a bar at 10? Where can we go get more alcohol? And she said that there was a strip joint. Recognize the trend here? They're the ones who stay open late. Uh, there's a strip joint down there. I'm sure they serve alcohol. So I'm like, great, let's do it. Are you in? Yeah, I'm in. So we walked down to this strip joint and ask if we can come in and order a drink. They said they don't allow women in, and we begged him to let us in and promised we would stay in the corner if he would just let us drink alcohol. And I was like trying to convince him, I was negotiating that he was going to make more money if they let us in, because we were going to buy drinks. So, fast forward, there were men at the bar that were purchasing I don't want to say the word on my PG-13 podcast episode, but you know how you can pay to go in the back with somebody to dance for you? Well, the men in the strip joint paid for that to happen for the woman I was with. And I was like, oh, okay, God, thanks. Thank God that wasn't me. And then she comes back and turns out they did the same thing for me. Well, I went back there and just told the lady, let's sit and talk. Let's sit and talk for however long. How long is it supposed to be or whatever? So anyway, I sat and talked and she told me about her life and everything. It was very interesting. But that's another example of how I'm able to fast forward now. It's always just one drink. I just needed one more drink. And that ended me up in a strip joint, sitting in a back room, talking to a stripper. Um, it's just, I don't want to be that person. I don't, it took what it took for me to get sober. And I'm grateful that all of that terrible, embarrassing, shameful stuff happened because it brought me to where I am today. Um, and those again are just two stories, just two. I drank, I was an alcoholic drinker since high school. Um, so I got sober in 2016. I was in my 40s. So you can imagine there's a lot of stories in there, a lot of tapes that I'm able to fast forward if I think about drinking. And I'm grateful for that. One of the promises of the program is we will not forget the past nor wish, no, sorry. We will not regret the past, and we will not, bleh, we will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. And that is where I'm at with that stuff. I I don't regret it, and I don't wish to shut the door on it because I wouldn't be here today without all of those experiences. Even though they were insane. I feel like they were just insane. So in early sobriety, I was introduced to the concept of not not just not drinking, but also achieving this emotional sobriety. And what I heard someone say today in my morning meeting was she heard early on, don't drink, don't think, go to meetings. And that don't think thing is something that they say a lot in different ways in sobriety. Either there's like a sign on the wall that says think, 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 and it's upside down because it's just the alcoholic just has this, the thinker just doesn't stop. The thinker just does not turn off. And so I realized kind of when she said that today was this idea of don't think is really the same as turning off my wanter that I tell you guys all the time. It's that restless, relentless voice in my head that is constantly seeking immediate gratification and um, and is seeking it through irrational means or unrealistic expectations. They're selfish. As I became more clear-headed, I understood that my insanity wasn't just wanting that drink, wasn't just me going to Glory Days and getting the drink. It wasn't me wanting that next drink, and being willing to go to a strip joint and like negotiating my way in. That wasn't even the insane part. Um, the insane part was the way that I processed my emotions and made decisions. That was the insane part. My thinking was completely skewed. It was driven by fear, insecurity, and a desperate need to fill a void in my life. And the only way I knew how to fill it was alcohol. And alcohol never really satisfied that void, never filled it. So I just kept throwing the alcohol down and trying to fill the hole. But the hole just had either it was an endless hole or there was a leak because I just couldn't get enough. I couldn't get enough. So what is emotional sobriety? It's achieving a state where emotions don't control us. It's being able, training ourselves to respond to life's challenges with balance and clarity rather than reacting impulsively. Um, it's the pause, it's the pause. I can only pause and listen to silence when I don't have all the voices and noise in my head. And the voices and the noise and all that stuff, that has been addressed through the steps of my sobriety program. So, yes, the first step is to put down the drink and to admit our life is unmanageable. But when we make that admission, when we make that decision, we learn how to live and feel in a more constructive and a more uh, balanced way, in a way that it's not scary to be inside my skin. Um, I listen to, I'm listening to The Women, which is a book about the women in Vietnam. And one of the things that the book said, which I just loved, was how this woman who came back from Vietnam and she had PTSD and all kinds of stuff. And I'm still in the middle of the book, but I stopped it yesterday when I heard it say, it's like running, it's like I'm running, but what I'm running from is inside of me. And I thought, "Ugh," and I hit pause and I was like, I have to write that down. That is what, to me, invisible illnesses are. And it motivated me to create an image of a dark stairwell and put this quote over top of it that I kind of worked on. I had several versions of it, but it's like invisible illnesses. And by that, I'm talking about alcoholism, stroke recovery. I'm talking about the disabilities that come from having a stroke that maybe the people around us can't see, like mine. I'm talking about depression. I'm talking about anxiety. There's uh, there's so many invisible illnesses that I said it's like invisible illnesses feel like, no, I said recovering alone from invisible illnesses is like running up, that fearful feeling that you have when you're running up the stairs from a basement and it's dark in the basement and you just feel like something's running up behind you. That's what it feels like to recover alone, when what you're running from is inside of you. It's not behind you running up the stairs, it's inside of you. And you just can't run fast enough. I gave myself goosebumps. You can't get away. Um, so how to maintain emotional sobriety? I was thinking when I was putting this together today, I was thinking, I feel like I'm saying the same thing constantly about self-awareness, mindfulness, meditation, healthy coping mechanisms, go to meetings, therapy, counseling, practice gratitude. I feel like I'm saying the same thing every day. And but then I realized it's because I do the same thing every day and it works. So I might as well keep sharing it, right? I mean, my emotional sobriety is made up of knowing, understanding my color wheel of emotions, knowing early on in this podcast, I talked a lot about the color wheel of emotions and how you may be feeling one thing, but it's actually a tertiary emotion that is derived from other emotions. Then you put them together and you feel, and I always give jealousy as the best example that comes to mind right away, probably because I had some issues with jealousy back in the day. But having that self-awareness and regularly checking in with yourself is so important to be able to slow yourself down, to be able to respond instead of react, because taking the time to pause and look at the emotions that you're feeling and understanding where what they are, giving them a name and where they're coming from, really in itself gives you enough time to respond instead of react. For so long, I started off the episode talking about this. For so long, I thought as a human being, things happen to us. We feel emotions, and as humans, we just do whatever reaction we have from those emotions. I didn't think I had a choice. I thought if I was angry, I had to yell. If I was angry, I had to hit my pillow. However old I was, if I was angry, I had to tell some chick to go F herself. Like, I thought that I had to react to my emotions or else they wouldn't go away. But that's not the case. And I learned this with my God box. I learned this in practice when I was working and I was pissed off at my boss, and I would put his name in my God box. And I just kept doing it for a week. I just kept sticking his name in the God box. I never said a word to him. And after a week, 5 days to be exact, that anger dissipated. And even on the fourth day, I was like, I wonder how long this is going to take because I'm still pissed off. And the next day, I was better. The next day, I thought, this isn't even worth it anymore. But it took that long. And that pause and looking inward and really taking some time with myself, that's where emotional sobriety starts and ends with me. That is the maintenance, the constant introspection. Um, I would say that's a little different than mindfulness. It's really mindfulness to me is keeping my head where my feet are. That's what mindfulness is, staying present. Um, I'm talking today about self-awareness. Um, it's almost I'm almost removing myself from where I am right now, and I'm looking inward at that world inside of me and navigating around, pushing things away, organizing, dusting things off, figuring out, tidying things up and saying, okay, you're good for another 2 hours. And then we'll check back in, Rachel, and we'll take a look at what emotions am I feeling now. So that's really what emotional sobriety is for me. Um, the next layer is coping with whatever those emotions are that you identify. And I have over time developed a plethora of things I can do in order to cope with my emotions in a healthy way. Exercise, talk to somebody, engage in a hobby. I mean, those are the first three that come to mind. Um, give my puppy a hug. Like, there's different levels of emotions that require different levels of a response from me. Um, but in order to make those decisions, I have to sit with myself for a little bit first. And if I call somebody too soon when I haven't completely tidied up in there, in my emotional world, then I might not be able to articulate exactly what's going on. So, if I can't figure it out on my own, therapy, counseling, that's what I've had to do. I've had to reach out to a psychiatrist, and I talk to her every Wednesday because my emotional landscape is what's the word when you're hiking? I was going to say traverse, but that's when you actually go through it. Anyway, it's got all kinds of different terrain, this emotional landscape of mine. And sometimes I fall into some quicksand and I need help getting pulled out of it. And as I sit here today and I'm talking about it, I feel very calm. It helps that I've got some classical music playing in the background. I don't know if you can hear it, but I should do that more often. I feel very calm. I feel very emotionally sober right now. And part of that is because I get to come here every day and talk about it. Um, I just love it. I'm so in love with this podcast. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't show up here every day. It's not like I have gone viral. I mean, wouldn't that be nice if I became like a viral sensation? But that has not happened yet. Um, if you share and promote my podcast for me, I'm certain we will be on our way. But I do this because it helps me, and I get feedback from you that it helps you too. Um, I'll continue to work on myself. I'll continue to go to meetings every morning, 2 meetings every morning. That's a lot. I never imagined I would be going to 2 AA meetings every morning, and then doing my podcast in the evening. Um, I don't think about drinking. I really don't think about drinking. I remember what it was like drinking, and I don't have all terrible memories of drinking. I have a lot of fun memories drinking, but I have towards the end, they all end badly, all of them. So this emotional sobriety is an ongoing journey, and I'm going to keep doing it this way because it's helping me make conscious choices every day, living in a way that supports my well-being and my recovery. When I need to, when the rubber meets the road, I turn off my wanter and focus on what truly matters. And that helps me to navigate the ups and downs of my life with grace and resilience, and hopefully have more experience, strength, and hope to share with others. So, thanks for listening today. Feel good. I feel like that was a good episode. Don't tell me if it wasn't. It was really good. Say hi to a stranger. I haven't done that yet. It's only 3:48. I got to go make dinner. And then I'm going to seek out my victim for saying hi to when I walk my dog this evening. Thanks for joining me today on Recovery Daily Podcast. I'll talk to you tomorrow.